You wouldn't be wrong to call the Toyota Camry the almost boringly safe pick of the segment. It was a big and comfortable sedan with unquestionable reliability, but let's be honest, not a whole lot else. It felt like an Altis but slightly bigger. But now look at it. It's edgy with a brand new platform, loaded with fresh and new technologies, and it looks like Toyota's trying to offer something more, something extra. So has Toyota managed to make the Camry desirable to those people who otherwise would never consider getting one? Outside, it certainly has a stronger personality. While the old one did grab attention, it was mainly for its size, not any notable design distinction. This one has both. It's actually lost a little height but is longer, wider and has a bigger wheelbase than before. Hand in hand, the Camry now has an attitude to its styling, with the sleek LED projector headlights, LED DRLs that make the car look like it has war paint on its face, and that plus-size lower grille that, much like in many Lexus cars, makes you wonder if you bought the grille and just happened to get the car with it. In profile, the Camry does have some hints of the 6th gen car, but as far as designs go, it's as distinctive as it gets. Also, it's not just the car's dimensions that are bigger, you even get a new set of 18-inch alloys. The rear end looks sportier now as well, with the coupe-like roof swooping into a, not to be crass, fairly wide rear end. If you turn up somewhere in this Camry, heads will turn and stay there for a while. So the first question I have to answer inside the cabin of the new Camry is, does it feel like a big Corolla? I'm happy to report it doesn't, even though there is a little bit of a caveat which I'll get to later on. But for one, this new dashboard looks more Japanese. They've taken a risk by giving it this asymmetric layout, and the end result just works, because it's definitely more individualistic than it was in the old Camry, but also not as business-like as it is in the Skoda Superb or Volkswagen Passat. So even if you're a younger buyer, mid-20s, late 20s, mid-30s, you can sit here and still get that sense of occasion. A major takeaway though has to be the kind of features added. For one, there's ventilated front seats. The front seats themselves are 10-way powered with adjustable lumbar support, and the driver's seat, the electrically adjustable steering and the mirrors get the memory setting. So whether you're driving or want to be driven, there's no need for fidgeting. To top it off all, there's a 10-inch heads-up display which will show you a digital tacho, speedo, compass, cruise control and even infotainment displays. There's a 7-inch MID and this 8-inch infotainment system that comes paired with a 9-speaker JBL sound system. Oh, and yes, there is this tilt and slide electric roof as well. So everything seems like a leap ahead. What's the caveat? Well, it's the familiarity of certain controls like the ones on the steering, which are very well damped but don't feel bespoke to the Camry. And the user interface of the 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system too, it feels a bit dated, not nearly as polished as it is in Skoda Superb. But by and large, that's it. It feels very unlike the old Camry in a good way. And I'm not heading to the back seat right now because Toyota insists that this is very un-Camry-like in one more way. So what is it that's un-Camry about this Camry? I'll get to that in a second. But what you need to know is that this car is based on Toyota's TNGA platform. It's the first assembled in India product by Toyota that's based on this platform, which is shared with the Lexus ES300H. And aside from sharing the platform, it also gets the same powertrain, a 2.5-litre petrol hybrid motor, which makes on the whereabouts of 218 horsepower. And much like it is in the ES, the transitions between the ICE, the electric motor, the generator, it's all seamless. So when you're driving at slow speeds or when you start off, you're in pure EV mode. It's dead silent. And once you get a little heavy on the throttle, that's when the motor kicks in, the engine that is. But the transition is so easy to understand and so easy to adapt to. It's no different than the AC compressor kicking in, if I had to explain it in simple terms. The benefit that you get with this powertrain when there's that constant tango between the engine and the electric powertrain is that there's constant calculations to figure out what is the most efficient possible way to use the performance. And we've seen this calculation actually bearing fruit in the real world, because when we tested the old Camry in the real world, we managed about 14 odd kilometers in city per litre and over 18 kilometers per litre on the highway, which is, by the way, in our road test on par with the BMW 5 Series diesel. So that was all the sensible stuff. Why is it that Toyota's insisting that the driver's seat is a new realm in itself? That's because this Camry handles. So let me cut to the chase first. This isn't Škoda superb levels of precise, but by what we've come to expect from Toyota, this comes as a very pleasant surprise because this steering, it's actually quite responsive. It's predictable. It's not as vague as the old one was. And if you set it down to sport mode, it weighs up just right and it feels direct, very well weighed, and it just makes the driving experience that much more involving. And it encourages the Camry driver to sit in the driver's seat, which isn't the natural habitat of the Camry owner, at least in India. So it's not just the steering behavior that encourages you to have some fun with this Camry. The body itself supports that kind of behavior because yes, you can tell that this is a big car. It obviously has the proportions, but once you go to push it through corners, take some tight bends, maybe go through some quick switchbacks like I've taken just now, there's none of that wallowiness. It just goes and settles immediately, which wasn't the case with the old one. In the old one, if you took a corner, the steering was confusing, the body was all over the place, which means you have to constantly put in corrective steer. That just doesn't happen anymore. And even though this car is around 30 kilograms heavier than its predecessor, it doesn't have these kind of drawbacks when it comes to dynamics because one, it's got double wishbone rear suspension and the torsional rigidity is up by some 30%. And backing up this very well-designed chassis is that powertrain. It's got enough punch to excite. It's not the kind where it's going to throw you back into your seat and go, whoa, or something. No, that's not going to happen. But if you want to reach triple-digit speeds like that, if you're looking to make overtakes without having to plan them, this has more than enough. But now it's time to snap back to reality because the rear seats got the real gravity. And we're going to keep things rolling at the back as well because one grouse I had with the old Camry was the suspension setup. It was set up entirely towards comfort but almost excessively so. So what would happen was if you had any kind of unevenness in the road, any imperfection, to keep you comfortable, the suspension would sort of dive through it. That was nice. But once you exited, it took forever to recover. So you constantly, over every imperfection, you just have that bouncing and bouncing, which made long distance travel not as flat and as comfortable as it could be. This one manages to do so much better because even with the bigger wheels, it deals with bad roads, imperfections, rough patches with so much more maturity, and you're getting all of the benefits that you had of the old Camry's comforts and suspension without the collateral damage of outright bounciness. And of course, it's not just about the ride, it's also a wonderful place to be in because first of all, look at the amount of legroom I've got. It's just oodles and oodles of it, and if I want more, I can always just use this quote-unquote pause button to adjust it and free up more space. You can move the backrest too. In addition to that, you've got two USB ports down here. There's an individual reading light. These are sun blinds towards the side, which are manual, and if I want, I can use the electrically operated rear sun blind. How do I do that though? Well, in the old car, you could manage a lot of these functions, but here, you've got this nice little touchpad, which frankly isn't all that necessary, but adds a nice dose of novelty, doesn't it? So you can manage the sun blind, you can manage the recline of the seats, so move it back, get a nice and relaxed angle, or if you want to sit slightly more upright and more attentive posture, you can raise it right up. You can even control the aircon from here, just the temperature, not the blower speed, and the audio functions as well. So as a rear seat owner's car, the Camry is just miles and miles better than its predecessor because it rides and handles with so much more maturity. It's so much more comfortable and dynamically sorted, and it combines that with all those must-have creature comforts you get from a Camry. But the benefit you have on top is when you want to have some fun, when dad wants to take out the car on the weekend and try and push and have a little kick, he doesn't have to switch to another car in the garage. Just drive this. And if you decide to get too much of a kick, there's plenty of safeguards like 9 airbags, ABS with EBD, brake assist, traction control and vehicle stability control to either stop you from overcooking it or keep you protected if you do. The simple answer is yes. Toyota has managed to make the new Camry desirable enough to attract a brand new audience. It's no longer boring with cool gizmos, a significantly improved ride and handling package and standout styling. But at the same time, because as of now it doesn't get the hybrid sops, it's also a lot more expensive than non-hybrid petrol alternatives like the Škoda Superb. So the deal closer, in no small part, remains the Toyota badge and the promise that comes with it.